Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Event Industry News podcast. My name is James Dickson, and as always, I wish you a very good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever or wherever you join today's podcast from. And we're talking all things venue today, and a little bit, I suppose, of career. And I'm sure it's going to be an interesting one. This is a podcast that we've had lined up now for several months, and for various reasons, as will become clear when we introduce our guests today. They've been very, very busy and we've rescheduled, but I'm delighted to say that joining the Event Industry News podcast today is Nicola Underhill. Nicola is the General Manager of the Hilton Birmingham Metropole. Nicola, very good morning. Welcome to the podcast.
Morning, James. Thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity.
Not a problem at all. Delighted that you can join us today, and even more so given that the venue is one that I'm absolutely certain the majority of people, certainly in the UK, and definitely some of our international followers, will have experienced or at the very least seen, because it's quite iconic in the UK events industry as a hotel venue. And for those of you who don't know, the Hilton Birmingham Metropole is right in the heart of the National Exhibition Centre. It is plumb in the middle of their site, and hence its iconography, I suppose, in the events industry. Nicola, you joined as general manager in September last year. How's it been for you?
James, I can honestly say it has been a roller coaster, but a phenomenal roller coaster. So you're right, Hilton Birmingham Metropole is a hotel, I think, that most people have either heard of or been to. And not only is it the largest hotel outside of London, it is a iconic and quite famous convention centre in the country. So to come and join this hotel, first of all, is an absolute honour. But to join it now, when we are undergoing a major refurbishment and giving this old girl a new lease of life, is even more incredible.
Well, that's the old girl you referred to her as. Am I right? Was it built at the same time as the National Exhibition Centre was built, so that there would be a hotel on site? Is it as old as the centre itself?
Yeah, it's 46 years trading now, this hotel. So, you know, we've got bags and bags of experience in the events industry and the hospitality industry because of that, yes.
Yeah, and of course, when you say it's largest hotel outside of London, not just the hotel facilities in terms of bedrooms and amenities for guests, but the events industry will know it because of the spaces that it's got available to it there. A number of different large room options, one in particular that I know a lot of people who've ever run significant conferences or awards events will be familiar with. It's difficult to know where to start today, but let's talk about the refurb first of all, and the sort of the timeline of that. You know, when it was first pitched, closure. You know, were you able to retain any sort of operational aspects? So where are we in terms of the refurb where we sit today?
Yeah, so James, the refurbishment program has been quite a long process, as is always, and they take a lot of planning because we need to make sure that the end result is both what the vision was in the first place and that it delivers for guests, event organisers, everybody alike. So it has been ongoing for quite a while. I joined September the 1st, so I've come in at quite the back end of the refurb program. So I'm the lucky one that gets to deliver the finished article. And in terms of the works, so the majority of our bedrooms are being refurbished. They've got a great new look and feel. They look so modern. And I don't think people who stayed here will actually recognize them. They're amazing. And then all of our downstairs space, all of our event space has been redecorated. It's got a new fresh look. And then our outlets have all been transformed. So we're even having a brand new bar restaurant built on the waterfront, as well as a brand new executive lounge built opposite on the waterfront. And these are going to be two key areas within the hotel that both guests just staying for one night or conference delegates can actually go to as part of their experience here. We've tried to bring in some great pieces of digital technology into the hotel just to, again, give people that better experience and just add one or two other touches that make both operationally more effective and a better experience for everybody who comes here too.
Sure. In terms of the drivers behind refurbs, they are inevitable. They are an act of, time. When a venue has been open, operational, and being used as much as this venue has done over the years,
Yep.
inevitably there comes a point where it needs, a spruce up. It needs some new equipment, some new infrastructure add in. But is this also partly driven? There's been a lot of development in the NEC. There's been a lot of upgrades to the venue, to some of the resort offerings that are there. It's very much a destination now. Is that part of the driver behind your own venue's upgrade?
Absolutely. I think it's made up of quite a few elements, isn't it? So you're right. It's really important for hotels, venues, whatever, to keep in with the times, keep up with the times, to remain competitive. And I know that's very important to Hilton. And then the NEC as an area, there's so much development planned for this area over the next few years. So, of course, we are at the heart of that NEC complex next to the actual exhibition centre. So it is important that we are in keeping with everything that's going to be going on around here with the development that they've got planned.
Let's talk about some of the infrastructure developments there, because as the people who are listening to this podcast and watching this podcast will know, infrastructure now and event infrastructure is absolutely critical to their event operations. You mentioned that in terms of the look of the event spaces, they've all had a spruce up, but in terms of what is available to organisers in terms of infrastructure, what developments have taken place?
Yeah, so I mean, the room that I'm in right now, you can't really see a lot of it, but this is called our Innovation Suite, James. So this has always existed, but it's had a whole new look and feel. And this is the room whereby we will bring our clients when they're planning their events, even when they first come and have a show round of the hotel. And it's a really lovely space, which is private, so we can talk all details and go through absolutely every little piece of the event that they want to organize in the hotel. So I think this gives us an edge to hotels that don't have a specific dedicated space with the complimentary teas and coffees and waters and all of that. And then we have also introduced into the hotel digital key, which is brilliant, because from a guest perspective, whether that be a hotel guest, a conference guest, then you can actually do the whole straight to room thing by downloading the digital key on your phone, and your phone actually becomes the key to open the doors, the same as the conference rooms as well. And in terms of the actual conference facilities themselves and the main rooms themselves, we've upgraded our lighting. So again, that's really important for when you're holding a big event and things like that. And then another thing we've introduced is an area that is an all-day grazing area for conference delegates, so they can pop down and get their morning breaks, their lunches, and it's just like a central hub, and it's got a beautifully newly revised conservatory, an outdoor space as well. So
A grazing space sounds
yes,
fabulous. And
it
what an
just doesn't.
idea, because anyone who's run or been part of or attended a conference, knows that you are tied into sometimes quite traditional timescales.
Yeah.
You arrive for coffee and pastries, you may have a mid-morning break, you then get your lunch served, etc. But so many conference organizers now are changing and shaking
Yes.
up the way that they actually frame and schedule their conference events. There's more flexibility built in for delegates to maybe nip into one session, but then have half an hour away. They might want to check their emails. They might want
Yeah.
to find a little quiet space to make some work calls. So having that flexibility, I suppose, from a catering point of view, does tie in with what the industry is doing.
It's a great space. It is, and it will have in there sort of from morning until evening sort of options for people, like you say, to just pop in, and it's away from the hustle and bustle of the hotel as well. So you can go and check your emails whilst you get a coffee and a pastry or whatever. So I can't. That's not quite finished. That's due to be finished in 2 weeks' time, and I am really excited for us to start using that space.
The other thing that you mentioned, which it's when I'm doing these podcasts, people mention stuff, and inevitably it always pops into my head something that may have happened recently.
Yeah.
Because I work as a freelancer, so I'm working on different stuff throughout the year. And just last week, I was working in a venue where none of the staff knew how to turn off the lights.
Oh, okay.
In order to, you obviously have lots of switches in big venues,
Yeah.
and it was an awards event, and none of the staff really knew how to turn off the ones that our AV company needed in order to create the lighting that they needed for the dinner area. And it really was one of those sort of trial and error. Let's just keep hitting buttons until we find something that we like. And I'm sure it's a pain point of a lot of people that are listening to this who've ever worked in a venue, particularly a hotel one, and gone, right, can we just turn those off but keep those
Yeah.
on? Oh, we've no idea how. It's just hearing that and knowing that you've maybe not addressed the issue but upgraded it maybe to give some
Absolutely.
flexibility.
And one thing I would say about our hotel, James, is we're very lucky in terms of how big we are, and therefore we can have some specific roles within our hotel. So we have got like our own on-site technicians, and we also have anybody who organizes an event here at the hotel. You get your own dedicated event planner who plans the event with you. And during that process, though, they will introduce you to your own event relations manager, so an ERM as we call them. Now, that's the person who is with the organizer from the minute the conference starts to the minute it ends, even over 5 days, 4 days, and they hold their hands through every point. So if ever, they say, oh, is it possible to dim the lights, change this, change the coffee times, then they know exactly who they need to speak to. They have their direct number, and it's all done instantly. So nobody else who's attending the conference even knows that this sort of changes are being made. So
the great thing about that is that just even though you've got these very large facilities, it would be wrong, I suppose, to assume that every single event that comes in has got significant events experience. Not every event, I presume, is going to bring in a production company and bring in their own freelance production managers and so I dare say you will deal with clients who might have 700-800 people coming for a conference, but they really do need that guidance and that experience of your in-house team.
Absolutely, James, and that is what we're here for. So I like to think that people come with a vision, and even those people who have never organized an event before, but they know that they need to have one, they come with a vision, and my team take that vision and we tailor make each and every conference to over deliver that vision for our clients. And you're right, not everyone knows how to organize an event, but that's why we have the dedicated event planning team, and you get one specific dedicated to your event. And then we have an amazing team of operators who then go and deliver that event at the time.
And are the operators, when it comes to that side of things, are they located on site? Do you have preferred suppliers that can offer things like AV or live streaming and things like that? How does that side of things work in your venue?
Yeah, so we have a partnership with an AV company, and they are based on site along with my own on-site AV team. And we've got partnerships actually for all sorts of things. So, venue dresses, anything that somebody says, oh, I think we might want this. We will have a partnership with somebody that will be able to recommend, introduce them to. They'll be able to chat through their ideas. And that's when the creative juices get flowing, and people actually end up with things they didn't even know at the beginning that was going to be something that they wanted. And then, they just go along this creative journey with all of these specialists and experts.
Yeah, and I guess that's also something that's really important, isn't it? Because what you've got there is effectively, I suppose, a blank canvas, event offering. In terms of the spaces that you've got, they're flexible. You can do lots of things with them. But in order to really make an event sort of sing and be as best it can be, there needs to be some individuality about it. And that when it comes to things like, dressing the room, scenery, the stage layout, again, for people who may not do this day to day, being able to offer some guidance on there and really getting their creative juices flowing is important.
Definitely, James. I'd like to think that sets us apart, because none of us think that we're the only venue in the country at all. So there's so much choice out there for clients these days. I think it's really important to be able to offer the clients the memorable experiences and the expertise. And I know that the Hilton Birmingham Metropole and the team here, there's over 2,000 years of experience within this team. There's some people who've been here for so many years, and so they know the building inside out, and they know exactly what we can deliver. So I'd like to think that sets us apart from anyone else.
Yeah, definitely. That detailed venue knowledge, I think, is underappreciated sometimes.
Yes, definitely.
Knowing exactly where things are and how things go, and don't come in that way because it looks easier, but there's a little step. Come that way because
Yeah.
you can push it straight in.
Yeah.
All those tiny little idiosyncrasies that venues have, having people on site who really know them is absolutely, I would testify to this, worth its weight
Oh, you're
when it
not
comes to
kidding.
delivering.
Yeah, not kidding. Honestly, I think so too.
Internet, I must ask about it.
Okay. What do you know?
Well, what was it? What is it? Has it changed as part of this refurb? Because the refurb, I suppose it's obvious, I suppose, to most people listening, but it's come at a time when obviously the industry was shut down in 2020 and the early part of 2021. Conferences, events as a whole were on a minimal level, and during that period, everyone's gone digital, everyone's gone virtual or hybrid, and so if it wasn't before, it's now in everybody's consciousness. And internet was already a vital part, but is even more so now that people want to do even more streaming and live video and things like that. What has been done as part of the refurb to sort of upgrade that?
Yeah, so I will openly admit I am not a technical person in the sense of I can't tell you bandwidth numbers or all that kind of stuff. But I have a specialist team, thankfully, who does all that for me. But I can tell you that it has all been enhanced and increased. I mean, to be fair, being one of the largest convention venues in the country, we already had great internet facilities and wireless facilities and bandwidth and stuff. But we completely agree. I mean, the last 2 years, if anything, has taught us all to sort of reflect and reevaluate where we are, and then we can go out there with whole new products that we can offer to our clients to react to the world that is today, the more digital world, as you say. So no, we have all of those facilities available. And fingers crossed, touch wood, the internet is going really well and it hasn't let us down. And all the conferences that we've done since we reopened on the 5th of September have been a great success.
And how, I guess, particularly that you came into the venue as GM in September, you will have probably taken a very, very proactive approach to being involved in some of these events, to see what the client feedback is like, to see how your own team are delivering those events and supporting them, and where improvements and refinements can be made. What has been the general feeling from the clients who've utilized the facility, not just about the refurb, but I suppose since coming back to events after a bit of a break?
Yeah, so I think that it's been common knowledge that the hospitality industry has been hit hard, as a lot of other industries, and I know a lot of clients were a bit worried about coming back. Would we have the resource to deliver their events? How is COVID impacting their events? I can honestly say that every single event we've done since we reopened on the 5th of September, that the organizers have been blown away. They said the team have over delivered at every single point, and I can't be more proud of them. They are a phenomenal team. I am very, very lucky. So yeah, and they are so incredibly impressed with the refurbishment. I mean, albeit some of them came in when we were only half completed, but they see what's been done already, and then they get excited about what else is to come.
Yeah, and do you know, congratulations first of all that feedback has come your way, and I think that is very much, I suppose, a snapshot of the wider industry as well, because again, people who work in the industry missed doing their day jobs. They missed that during that whole pandemic. They were, they really did miss doing what they love to do, and I think the plus side for clients is that since coming back, everyone has this sort of renewed vigor and enthusiasm for what they do, and they're going above and beyond even more so than they maybe did before.
I know, absolutely, James. And if you talk to hotel team members or venue team members who were on furlough for a very long time, people in this industry are people who love serving people, right? We're all about the people. So for us, during furlough, or my guys who were on furlough, they were just itching to get back. So now, the day we reopened and we invited them all back, and we did a week's worth of training with them all before we opened the front doors, they were so excited. They just wanted to get stuck in and get back to doing what they love so much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, the events industry is built on its people,
Yeah.
and whilst it's great to know what's happening with the venue and the clients and everything, you came into the venue in September last year, as we mentioned a few times on today's episode. But tell us a little bit about your roles and your career before that, because you don't just drop into being GM at a venue like this by accident. What were you up to before then?
So, I mean, I'll give you a very short synopsis. I have been in the hospitality industry since I was 14 years old, actually. And I do think it's one of those industries that gets under your skin and you just love it. So I have managed a wide range of venues in my career, from city centre venues, wedding venues, event venues, sports venues. My
Right.
hotel before here was the Hilton at St George's Park. I don't know if you know it, James.
Yes, of course. Home, England's home.
It is, yes. So it's owned by the Football Association, managed by Hilton, open to the general public, corporate events, everything, but also home to all 28 England football teams. So, and I was there for 6.5 years and then
Wow.
moved over here. But I've been with Hilton for 9 years. And do you know what? When I joined Hilton, more or less probably a week or two in, I said, I want to run the Birmingham Metropole one day. And 9 years later, here I am.
Yeah, I suppose the flagship, from
Exactly.
as a venue in terms of what it can do and what it can offer everybody. It's not just
Exactly.
a hotel.
Nope.
We were saying earlier, wasn't it? It's a destination.
Yes, it is. And I just think in my job, you have the opportunity, right, to create these. It sounds cheesy, but I genuinely believe it. You have this opportunity to create these memorable experiences. It's like what you said before. Most of the people who will be listening to this will have either heard of or been to this hotel.
Mm.
And we're part of what they remember. We help create those memories for those people. And I always think that's a great honor.
It is memories. And on that subject, I suppose we associate the venue a lot with, I suppose, B2B, with corporate events, with stuff that's happening there. But I guess given where you are and its proximity to the NEC halls, there's a lot of consumer events, concerts, and things like that going on. Is it is there a dedicated split within the venue operationally between events that are taking place and business related stuff, and then guests who are coming who are just guests who are there for the leisure side of things?
Absolutely. I mean, like I alluded to before, I'm very lucky that we have such a broad team and some very specialist positions within the team. And therefore, we can give people certain areas to focus on. So, yes, we do get those guests that come here for, leisure purposes as well. They come and they stay and they pop off to Resort World, or they go to the NEC, or, we're 10 minutes on the train to Birmingham city centre. Because we have all of these great outlets ourselves, these bars and restaurants, they can spend so many hours in this building. We also have a great health club that's also recently been refurbished with new sauna, new steam room, and new gym equipment. So you can come here for a mini break and be quite busy over a couple of days with everything that's going on in the area and in the hotel as well.
Do you thrive under pressure as a professionally? Because these venues that you've just mentioned, your last two, the St George's Park, that pressure will come with that inevitably.
Yeah.
Because you said it's owned by the FA, there will be an expectation of delivery there, particularly associated with the Hilton name and all of the reputation that carries with it. And then this particular venue now, are you a person that's always wanted that sort of pressure of delivering?
Do you know, I must thrive under pressure. I must do. I think I never obviously go and seek pressure. I'm one of these people though that challenges myself all the time. So, one of my mottos in life is go big or go home. And
Yeah.
I just think if you can always strive to achieve more and more and more, then one day I'll sit in my nursing home and think, yeah, I did everything I could have done. So, but I also, with high pressure jobs, and it's not necessarily the pressure, it's everything that goes on and the excitement, and there's no 2 days the same, and it's constant go, 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 and your brain is constantly thinking, and that's what I think I thrive off. I would get bored in an environment that did not have all of these things to focus on and get your hands and teeth into, and
Well, I suppose it's hard. I don't know if risk is the right word to use, but high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
The higher the pressure, the bigger the venue, the more people you've got coming in and out. The pressure, yes, will no doubt increase. There will be stresses that come with that, but the flip side is that you'll probably have even bigger highs when you get great events in, or you absolutely smash a weekend in restaurant and bar, and there's a show running over the road, and you're absolutely chock full of guests enjoying themselves. I suppose that the spectrum between those two things is even broader in this size of venue than maybe in a more sort of day-to-day, I'm going to use the word mundane, hotel.
Absolutely, James. I mean, back in September, October, when we got the events back in after we reopened, just the volume of people in this building and the atmosphere is just electric. And it's when every single person in this building pulls together as a team and they all have the same end goal. And I can't describe how that feels to anyone who's not worked in a venue such as this. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So something I'm going to rewind a little bit to something that you mentioned earlier on in the conversation about the digital keys, and a question that sprung to mind. First of all, I thought, brilliant. I've not seen those before, but I'd love anything like that. Great, just in terms of ease of use, people can arrive, bingo, they've already checked in, they've got their key, straight to their room. It just speeds up the process. It makes things great. Do you have to balance it carefully as a GM, because you want that sort of personal contact from your staff with your guests to give them that great experience? And something like the digital key, whilst it offers great logistics and ease of use, removes that personal contact that you can potentially give to the guest.
Yeah, absolutely. We have other digital platforms, though, that for those people who don't necessarily want to see a team member face to face, we can also then contact them via other digital platforms. Once they've checked into the hotel, we can then message their phone and just say, hope everything's okay with your room. And give them contact details for whoever they can speak to at the front desk. So we always try and still have those personal touches, even with those people who want to avoid the face-to-face. So it is a balance, because you don't want to lose that hospitality. That's what we're here for. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess as well, when you're dealing with a venue as large as this and the amount of people that physically come through the door, even prior to having a digital key, as much as you would like to think that it was the case, it was physically impossible to interact with every single person that walks through the door of the venue. Even before we had smartphones and emails and things like that. I was going to ask as well, that probably leads me to another question as to how many people come through the door who are not actually guests, who don't have a room or are not staying over. Presumably there's a higher proportion of people who are not staying there than are staying there because of the event spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. It does depend on obviously what's on at the time, but yes, we can do just non-residential conferences. So yes, those people in and out, as well as the residential conferences and the leisure guests and the transient guests. So you can get a large volume of people through those doors. You are absolutely right. But going back to your point about, it's probably impossible to interact with all those people, I can honestly say that Hilton, it's a worldwide renowned company, that they do have so many programs for our team members to help them and give them the tools to be able to interact with as many of the guests as possible, because it's so key to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take things back before we wrap today to the event side of things.
Yes.
And there are multiple different roles for staff within a venue like this.
Yeah.
What for the event specific staff who are supporting the events that are taking place in the venue, do they come pre-trained? Do you source them from other event roles, or is there progression within the management structure and the staffing structure within a venue like this for somebody to maybe move from another part of the operation into the event side of things and gain that experience?
No, absolutely. So in all roles, in sort of the event side, from sort of the junior team members, we would recruit on attitude, as opposed to experience, because we believe that if you've got somebody who really wants to work in events, right, if they've never done it before, we can train them and we can coach them. And there's so many success stories within this hotel of people who started off at junior team member level and have progressed through the ranks to sort of an event a relations manager or a supervisor or a floor manager, and then we've got like assistant conference and banqueting manager and director of conference and events, and there is that progression. And Hilton is so passionate, as am I, about developing people. Somebody gave me a chance once upon a time, and I think it's important that we continue to do that with everybody who comes into this building and to this industry.
It's great. It's great to hear, that there is an awful lot of academic learning and training that's available to not just young people, any person who wants to get into events, but loads more universities and colleges now do events related courses. We're getting so many more young people and graduates coming into the industry with qualifications. But it is important to recognize that a lot of people listening to this and a lot of people who built this industry, certainly in the UK, came with no academic understanding or learning of the industry. They built that through experience and by working at it and learning from other people who'd done it. So having both those pathways, I think, is important that we retain that.
Completely agree. And like classroom learning is, it's brilliant, and all the theory side of events is brilliant, but you get your real experience and your real learnings from on the floor, in the job, with a team who are all experienced people. That's how you learn the best.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been talking on the podcast today to Nicola Underhill. Nicola is the general manager at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole. And I don't use that word lightly, an icon of the venue industry in the UK events industry. Nicola, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I know it's taken a few months to finally pin you down, but as I said at the beginning, hopefully people now understand why we've maybe had to juggle a few dates around, because it's been a busy time for you.
It certainly has. And James, thank you so much for inviting me to talk to you. And yes, it's been a long time in getting this date in the diary, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
No, it's been great to talk to you. And of course, if anybody wants to find out more about the hotel, if you're listening to this and you think, do you know what, I've not been there before, but I'm working on something and this could provide me with the ideal space, then do check them out. Google Hilton Birmingham Metropole. You'll find the website really easily. Loads of information on there for event organizers. And of course, on all the socials, we're popping up the Twitter handle now, which is at Hilton Birmingham Met on Twitter. Again, if you just search Twitter for Hilton Birmingham Metropole and all the other social platforms, you'll find out about what these guys are up to. And of course, you can do the same thing with all the event industry news socials. At Event News Blog is us on Twitter. And if you search the other platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, etc., you'll find out what's happening on. If you just search for event industry news. It brings us to the end of today's episode. Our thanks again to our guest, Nicola Underhill from the Hilton Birmingham Metropole. We will see you on the next edition of the podcast with another fabulous guest, I'm sure. Nicola, thanks very much for joining us today, and we'll see you all very soon.
James, thank you.